New season, new look, and hopefully some new players on the horizon too. We've got a couple of links to defenders and a new friendly being announced for our American listeners to enjoy, perhaps in person. This is the Arsenal Transfer Show. Hello and welcome to the Gooner Talk, back again with you guys for another episode of what is a Arsenal transfer show. Joining me every morning at 8 a.m. just UK time. And yes, thank you for joining us. You'll see that we've got our new look show every season. We update, of course, what this looks like on the channel, and we try, with the help of our amazing editors, to correspond that to the brand new kits. So you're going to see the third kit, which, if you're not unaware, is the kind of the turquoisey Microsoft Office screensaver type screen that's going to be used. We also like to use a little bit of retro here and there, so you might see a bruised banana or two featuring in this year's new look too. So yes, plenty to get excited about. So I'm very much looking forward to it, and looking forward to seeing how you react to it. My throat is still not recovered from the weekend of singing It's Coming Home at a wedding. Yes, that did happen. So bear with me if I do need to take a couple of drinks or sips. But good morning to those joining us in the chat box. Appreciate your time. As always, Runs with Cows, Red Star, Natty Tom. We've got Carl and Stephen. We've got Barry and Matt G. We've got Damien, Amira and Angela, Martin, Adagoke, Pat, Jean, Stevie, Morgie, Leopold, MD, Jack, Aaron, MD, Roy. We've got Maximius and Shari, NSW, Adam. We've got Vivian. We've got plenty more of you guys and girls as well. Thank you, as always, for tuning in. You are all incredibly appreciated. Please do, if you could be ever so kind, drop a like on the video and subscribe to the channel. If you're new around here, with those notifications turned on so you never miss a show. Got a small thing to talk to you about in the second part of the show. But before we get to that, let's go through today's stories as you help us, hopefully, to get to 1K likes every single day. We start with William Saliba bullying Romelu Lukaku as France edged past Belgium and through to the quarterfinals of the European Championships, eliminating, of course, Leandro Trossard. We also saw in the later game yesterday evening, Portugal also just about sneak through past Slovenia. Benjamin Šeško is now out of the competition. He had a huge chance to win the game for Slovenia, couldn't take it. Ronaldo missing a penalty, but scoring in the penalty shootout, as Slovenia failed to score a single spot kick. Quite the spectacle, but especially seeing Ronaldo burst into tears after, of course, his penalty miss in extra time. But Saliba again looking absolutely stunningly consistent and composed against what most people would describe as one of the more impressive centre forwards in the tournament in Lukaku, no matter how many comedic errors he might make. Trossard still, and won't be in the featuring again because, of course, Belgium being out, but he barely featured throughout the tournament. Arsenal fans might be quite happy, about that in the end, but Trossard not featuring once again, despite starting the tournament initially. It seems his father's comments have had quite a considerable impact on how Tedesco has decided to use him, which is not at all during the tournament, really, after those comments, bar, I think, a single substitute appearance on the day. So, yeah, Trossard will return, which probably means he'll be available for that pre-season tour of the United States from the start, but will be enjoying a early holiday at the moment before returning, of course, when the club fly away on the 21st of July. But now we know that they will be facing another Premier League team. We know that they'll be playing Bournemouth at the Los Angeles Dignity Health Sports Park, which is, of course, the home of LA Galaxy. The game is set to take place at 7:30 p.m., I believe, Pacific time, which means it is, for those here in the UK, a very tiring 3:30 a.m. I can already hear our listeners from abroad thinking, yeah, so what? So what? You've got to get up at ridiculous o'clock in the morning to watch an Arsenal game, about time that you face the same level of commitment and tiredness that we face every single week, pretty much. But yes, it will be a very late game, or early game in the morning for those here in the UK. And for those in the States, this is the third friendly that's been announced. It will be the first friendly, of course, that we play in the States. We then play Manchester United a few days later, before then a few days after that, moving to Philadelphia to play Liverpool. So that's the three friendlies. We know all of Arsenal's pre-season scheduling at the moment, besides any potential other surprises. We come back home to play Bayer Leverkusen at the Emirates before then playing Lyon in the Emirates Cup on the following Sunday. So plenty to go on, plenty to be excited for, plenty of action coming. Arsenal will return to the field in just over 3 weeks' time. Not long to wait before we can see what on earth our squad is going to look like and how on earth we look going into the brand new season. Moving into transfer news, and Fabrizio Romano claiming yesterday that Arsenal have now officially activated David Raya's buy clause from that 27 million option that they had during the loan between themselves and Brentford. I'm not sure whether or not it actually counts officially as that option, because of course the loan expired at the end of last month. So I don't know if that offer was still viable, whether or not they came to an agreement. But the suggestion is, of course, and as I reported several weeks ago, there wasn't expected to be any surprises regarding David Raya. He was always expected to arrive at Arsenal, so we expect David Raya to be announced as Arsenal's first senior signing of the summer very soon. Moving into potential incoming stuff, we've got a couple of stories for you. Arsenal, according to multiple reports, especially those coming out of Spain, are suggesting that Arsenal are indeed monitoring 60 million rated Jules Kounde. He is playing currently for France at the European Championships as a right back. It still does raise this question around, why are Arsenal looking at a right side defender? They've got Tomiyasu, they've got Ben White, they've got Jurien Timber. Do we need another right side defender who can also play centre half? He's a very good and talented player, of course, but do Arsenal need him? And then, of course, there is the other side of the defence, which many would say would be a greater needs, and that I think leans more into the links to Calafiori, who of course can play as a left centre half and as a left back in the style that Mikel Arteta enjoys, the centre half stylistically tailored more so to the middle of the defence, but can play comfortably on the left-hand side. Several reports coming out from Italy yesterday suggesting both Arsenal and Chelsea are interested, but Arsenal outside of Italian sides are the most concrete in terms of a team that are interested in the Italian defender. I like the player. I like his profile. He's very Arteta in his style. He, loves being on the ball. He brings the ball out from the back, and he contributed 5 assists last season because of his forays forward from those positions. Could it be risky? Maybe, but Arsenal have already got plenty of those types of players, and we've done very well with those players, despite, of course, them being somewhat riskier. So, Calafiori of Bologna, very high amounts of interest from top Italian sides, Inter and Juve, both intrigued. AC Milan, I reckon, are as well. And when you're looking at Arsenal and Chelsea involved, it could be quite the race to try and sign the Italian international. But maybe Arsenal can use their Jorginho to give them a bit of an edge in any of the conversations in signing Calafiori, because he's definitely a very talented player. That's for sure. Right, let's go to part 2 and your questions and a small announcement right after this. Okay, this is part 2 of the show, of course, where we jump into the chat box and tackle as many of your questions as we can muster. Small announcement. You'll remember that I hinted to this a few days ago and told you that a few weeks ago I was doing some exams, law and reporting, and I'm very happy to tell you that I passed those exams. And 4 years after leaving a career in teaching, I can officially say, having passed those exams, I am now what is described as a senior journalist, which is great. And I'm very happy to have got that qualification, going into a completely different change of pace and career and, topic of coverage and with work, being able to get that, it means a lot. It's a really big moment for myself, and I'm really, really happy that I've been able to do that and prove that, I can do it. I didn't do a journalism degree. I didn't do English at A-level. Didn't do anything that was going to send me on this pathway to this career. And I always like to use that as an example for those youngsters that perhaps, get their degree or get their qualifications and think, I'm not going to use these. Just if you're passionate about something, try and chase that dream. I always recommend making sure that you've got the resources to be able to do it. Don't put yourself in a lurch trying to do so. I had to do a lot of work whilst I was teaching, building up the channel, doing a lot of writing for websites for free for a very long time to build up that portfolio of work because I didn't have the qualifications at the time. But yeah, very happy indeed. And thank you for all the very kind comments that I can see you leaving in the chat box, which is, as always, you are without question the reason why I continue to fight so hard and continue to fight for this career and to continue doing what I'm doing. So thank you to all of you in the chat. You are all very much appreciated. And as I say, without doubt, the reason why I could do it. So thank you. But without further ado, let's jump into part 2 and go to your questions in the chat. Matt G says, after Šeško's performance in the European Championships, how do you feel now that Arsenal didn't sign him? I don't think my mind has really changed, to be honest, Matt, at all on Šeško. I was actually impressed by a lot of his performances. He's playing for a side that limits the number of chances that he gets. Yes, he was in a really good one-on-one situation that I thought Diogo Costa, by the way, who is a goalkeeper that I've spoken about on the channel before. I spoke about him on the channel before we played Porto in the Champions League. And I always said if there was a goalkeeper that I wanted to sign that wasn't David Raya, it would probably be Diogo Costa. And again, he proved that he is a very, very good goalkeeper. And I imagine will be snapped up by another big side in Europe at some point for a lot of money. And Porto will again make a huge fee on one of their players that they allow to leave. But David Raya appears to be the player that we're going to get. Manali Cream says, seems Joan, someone told me the other day it's pronounced, is it Juan Garcia? It's not Juan, but Juan Garcia is the target to replace Ramsdale as the number 2. Any thoughts on him? I can't say I've seen loads of him. Espanyol are my Spanish team, but I don't watch them week in, week out. But the handful of what I have seen, he forced his way into the team in the second half of the season through some really impressive performances, of course, and nailed down that spot despite Pacheco being the number 1 keeper at Espanyol. 23 years of age, obviously Spanish as well. So Iñaki Kena maybe knows plenty about him and maybe could work more seamlessly with David Raya. Those goalkeeping sessions, of course, maybe would be the communication might be better. I don't know. But Aaron Ramsdale does seem destined to leave this summer. And when he does, Arsenal do need to make sure that they've got, very decent cover behind him. Thank you again. I can still see plenty of you leaving some very kind comments. So thank you to you all. Daniel says, I thought it was an obligation to buy on the Raya deal. No, wasn't an obligation. It was an option. Arsenal had the choice of activating should they so wish. And they have chosen, of course, to sign him on a permanent deal. Mark says, I think Arsenal's targeting of these players is not off. Rather, when they are not trained by Arteta and used in our system, they look much worse. I'm trying to get my head around the comment, Mark, to be honest. I think when it comes to targeting certain players, it's the other way around. When they're not... Oh, I see. Sorry, now I understand what you're saying. It says when they're not trained by Arteta and not used in our system, they look worse. Yes, now we align. So I think you're right. I think that when players like Trossard or, even some other players in England, Declan Rice, for example, aren't playing in the Arsenal system, they aren't looking as good. Certainly playing week in, week out for your club helps, but the international managers, I maintain, need to have the ability to bring together that group in a shorter period of time. That is why international management is so difficult, and you need managers that are tailored for that specific role. But I think any signing that we make has got a great chance of becoming better. I think we've seen and got plenty of examples of the players that have improved and got better under Mikel Arteta, and that's a real incentive and a real attraction for players that could be arriving at Arsenal in the near future. Perry Bakayo says, morning. It may be surprised how many nicotine pouches are in the Prem. After seeing a recent picture of Ben White with them, is it concerning or should we let players do as they wish? I saw the picture. I think what you're relating to is an image that was taken by the Daily Mail. I've never been a big fan of those types of reporting practices, the paparazziing people in their personal lives. Ben White has been utterly brilliant for Arsenal. As far as I'm aware, as far as I'm concerned, at the end of the day, let him do as he does. If he's performing like he's performing, I don't really have too many questions at all about what's going on. As long as what he's doing is legal, which I'm pretty sure it is, it's absolutely no issue for me at all. Mark says, Šeško, Caicedo, Mudryk, these are all players, of course, that maybe haven't signed for Arsenal, and we're not seeing the best from them, indeed. Beak says, Tom, I don't know about you, but I like Arsenal's approach of buying players from underperforming national sides. Calafiori's stock is no higher now than it was before the Euros began. I think he stood out for for Italy. I was impressed by his performances, moving the ball forwards, progressing it, and probably being the most positive player in the Italian backline, perhaps. But I see where you're coming from, but I don't think it's an intentional thing to sign players from nations that aren't necessarily performing amazingly well. I think it's more of a coincidence than anything else. Ben says, to counter that, aren't we looking for an X factor player to make the difference in the Champions League? And those types of players should also be able to show up regardless of the system they're playing in. It's a completely fair counterpoint from Ben. You want players that can show up. You want players that can do that. The problem is, Ben, that I don't know if there is a player like that available in the market at the moment for Arsenal. Most of those types of players are already at the biggest clubs in the world. Isak we looked at. I like Mohamed Kudus a lot. I'd love to see Arsenal go for a player like that. But I don't necessarily think there is a realistic reality where that's going to happen, sadly. So let's wait and see. Dunko says, question, with Kounde potentially coming in, would you move Ben White to cover over Gabriel? I think we need to learn to rotate more. I know it's important to have kind of a consistent back line. Saliba is also playing as a left centre half for France at the moment, so maybe it'd make more sense to play Ben White at right centre back and then Saliba at left centre back. That's certainly something that we could do. Gabriel's contract situation, of course, he did sign a new deal relatively recently, but the club have wanted to tie him down to a new one, but that's not yet happened. So there is a world where Gabriel could leave the club. You never know. So you want to be prepared as much as you feasibly can be. Ondorelli says, why spend 100 million on Gyökeres when you could spend 100 million on Isak? Probably because you can't. You can't spend 100 million on Isak because Gyökeres is not 100 million. He's 86 million pounds. And Isak is well over 100 million pounds. So you got to get your facts a little bit straighter on that one, I'm afraid, on Ondorelli. Greg says, Tom, do you think the Kounde interest maybe means that we are earmarking Timber as a first choice left back this season? If so, could you imagine that we are lighter on the right-hand side, therefore, than the left? Not necessarily, Greg, because I think if you sign Kounde as well, you've got Kounde, Timber, White, Tomiyasu. They could all play right back. You've got Thomas Partey still. Who can play right back too. So there's loads of depth for that position. So I don't think so, Greg, at all. Soup says, I think Tifo did a video on the popularity of snus. I don't even know what this is. As long as it doesn't harm their performance. I don't even know what it is. Let me have a look. Am I getting old? Half of players using snus or snus would like to stop. A study on BBC Sport has read. Almost 1 in 5 male professional players who took part in a new survey are using snus or nicotine pouches or both, and nearly half would like to stop using snus within the next 12 months. The study by Loughborough University, commissioned by the Professional Footballers Association, also identified that 2 out of 5 players had tried the pouches at least once. The report suggests the actual usage figures are likely to be higher because players may not want to disclose their use of the stuff in the anonymous survey, which was the first done. As many as 628 male players based at either the Premier League or the EFL clubs were surveyed, as well as 51 Women's Super League players. And of the male respondents, 18% said they currently use snus, whilst 42% said they had tried the substance at least once. So what is it? So snus is a tobacco product in a sachet similar to a small tea bag, which is placed under the lip and released nicotine into the bloodstream. It is illegal to be sold in the United Kingdom, but not against the law to use, while tobacco-free nicotine pouches are legal. Most players use nicotine pouches rather than tobacco-based snus. However, they are often referred to nicotine pouches using the term snus. So there you go. That's it. There's another section on the article that says, why do footballers use the stuff? Of the 45 men and 11 women that perceived a performance benefit from using snus, 29% and 55% respectively cited improved mental readiness as the key benefit. So as someone who's never smoked in their life, I can't speak from the experience of the benefit of the chemicals you get from taking that stuff, but I can't. Yeah, so it's impossible for me to comment, really. As the article says, it's not illegal to consume the substance, but it is illegal to sell it. It's illegal to be sold in the UK, but not against the law to use, it seems. So there you go. But yes, this comes from a story, I believe it was by the Mail, that did a picture of Ben White with some patches on, which is, I really don't know why it's a story at all. So there you go. Right, let's go to Bakary Lizani says footballers and gold rush era prospectors both shaking hands over the loving of chewing tobacco. TJR says Vardy is one known for using. Is he? But him coming out in the Red Bull was what got all the attention. A lot of people chew nicotine gum as well. So it's nicotine seems. I mean, it's not advisable for people to use, of course, as is neither is smoking, of course, and not doing either of those things is better for your health, of course. But loads and loads and loads and loads of people use it, as this survey is showing, and it's not illegal to use it either. I just don't really know why it's a big story. So there you go. Soup says, I used to smoke. The benefit is an illusion. It's more like a distraction. Abhinav says, if we are selling our homegrown players with the likes of Nketiah, Nelson, and buying players like Nico and Onana, how does it affect our quota? It doesn't. Arsenal aren't under any pressure at the moment, even if we were to let go of some of those players, to be honest, at all. And so for that reason, I don't think we need to be too concerned yet. It's worth pointing out, as always with this topic, that there is no such thing as a homegrown quota. There is only one such thing as a non-homegrown quota. There is 17 non-homegrown players that you are allowed to register in your 25-man squads. So always bear that in mind when having any discussions. Laura's in the chat, good friend of the show, says, joining late, but I can just say that Calafiori will fit in well to Handsome FC. Yes, Laura's a big supporter of Handsome FC, managed by the very annoyingly handsome Rob Edwards. So I must be on the bench. Sure, that's all I can say. I must be on the bench. Matthew says, the only use for nicotine is to counter the effects of nicotine withdrawal. Again, I don't know why we're going. I don't think I need to go into this topic. I'm not experienced in this field. This is not a podcast for this. So I'm probably going to move on from this topic. But we've touched on it for those that wanted us to touch on the subject. So there you go. Goodness gracious me. I'm now trying to find comments that aren't related to this topic now. People are very passionate about this. Scrolling up a little bit more to Matt G says, what's more likely? A, we see Luke Shaw playing at the Euros, or B, Arsenal sign Alexander Isak. I think A, Matt, is the more likely of the two. So there you go. Nora's now getting absolute pelters for a Handsome FC. You should make sure you're following Laura on social media if you're not. And of course, for those that came to our live event, will know exactly what Laura's thoughts are and plenty of the comments from our live show earlier in the year. I am looking at doing another live show next year, by the way. I've not put those plans yet into motion, but I know a few people have messaged me asking when the next one will be. I don't really want to do more than one a year, so I think it takes away the gloss of it a little bit, if you do it too often. But I'll be looking to do another one next year. I really enjoyed our hosts at the Queen's Head in Angel last February, and I'm looking forward to it as well. And Laura's asking the question, Tom, any ideas when we'll see the new Arsenal away kit? It's seen so many leaked versions right now. I think that we'll see the away kit this month. We usually tend to see the away kit launched on the tour, and sometimes we then see the third kit either launched later in the tour or, of course, when we get back. And so for that reason, I think that, you're more likely to see the away kit in the States, and then the third kit maybe for one of our friendlies against Bayer Leverkusen or Lyon. I would assume that would be the most likely time that we will see those. Taserface in the chat says, hey, Tom, have you heard anything about the Cronkies buying the Emirates Stadium and increasing the capacity to 75,000? Absolutely not. I've heard nothing on that. I'd be curious what the source of that is, because I had someone ask me about this yesterday, and then when I asked them for the source, they didn't know where it was. So maybe that gives you all the information, I suppose, that you need. Derek says, hi, mate. Hedge your bets on our first signing and who it will be and when. Mate, if I knew that, I would have got my senior journalism qualification a long time ago. But in all realism, I think it'll be David Raya, and I think it'll be within the next couple of weeks. So there you go, Derek. There's my answer to your question. Roy says, as you're now a senior journalist, congratulations in brackets, does that mean a pay rise, a golden pen, and a notebook with a diamond-studded voice recorder? Oh, all of the above, yes. Reach can't wait to give me a diamond-studded voice recorder, I bet. Ben says, can't believe all the Arsenal boys scored past this penalty monster in the Champions League. We won a penalty shootout against this guy. It shows you how good we are, perhaps, at taking penalties. And people are now suggesting more options for Handsome FC. And TJR suggests that Pablo Marie should be in the team as well. Good centre-half, very good-looking man. Now playing for Monza as well. So he's playing in Italy, which is, as we've discussed with Calafiori, full of very, very attractive men, to be fair. Taserface says, yeah, I believe I haven't known the source of where that story comes from regarding the stadium capacity increase. I just wanted to see if you'd heard anything. And no, I've not heard anything on that thread. I've not asked any questions about it, to be fair, but I've not heard anything in any discussions I've had either. Ryan says, any update on the City's case? Again, no, as we have explained numerous times, it will be heard later this autumn in court, and then we will hear more so a conclusion at the end of the forthcoming season is the estimated time that we will see that. Cass says, how much do you think Arsenal will get for Biereth if he's sold? I'd hope to get more than 10 million. You know, I'd be looking to get to 10 to 15 million pounds. I'd be hoping to get for Mika Biereth. I'd be disappointed with less than that after the season that he had for Sturm Graz, but you never know. I guess we'll have to wait and see. Let's go to Neil says, if Spain win the Euros, we can't say that an Arsenal player has won it, as Raya is technically a Brentford player. Technically, it depends on when he becomes an Arsenal player, Neil. But he has played a game in the Euros, so technically he, I mean, all the squad get a medal if you win it, even if you don't even play a minute, I think, to be fair. So we can argue that he still win it. Vanaju says, was the 15% sell-on clause from Ari Hutchinson disappointing because it was more standard than reported substantial sell-on clause? I mean, to be fair, the only time that whole 50% malarkey came up was on social media and had absolutely no real journalistic credibility behind any of those claims that were going around. The sell-on clause, I am told, is between 15 and 20. That's what I've been briefed on this situation. It's between 15 and 20%. Is it disappointing? No, not really. Mainly because, of course, we lost the player on a free. So the compensation that was involved in that, being a sell-on clause, actually was a little bit of a shrewder bit of business by Arsenal in the end. It's also going to be interesting to see, of course, where Mario Koja-Dubry and Ruel Waters, when they leave Arsenal, which they now have, it was confirmed yesterday that both of them have left. Wherever they go, it will be interesting to see if either of those two players get Arsenal a considerable amount of compensation, or if indeed they have also put sell-on clauses into those deals. Ondevoli says, hey Tom, how do you think Arteta would have done using this system back in the earlier 2000s? Would football have evolved earlier to a different trajectory if such implementations were in place? I don't know if he would have done, because, of course, Arteta took a lot of the inspiration from Pep Guardiola, who in turn took a lot of inspiration from Cruyff. So I don't necessarily think that Arteta implementing it in the 2000s would have happened, because ultimately those influences have developed over time. I don't know how that style would have worked. It's impossible to know. But during the 2000s, we started moving away from, in a Premier League sense, your traditional 4-4-2s, and then we started to move into more industrious kind of attacking play that we saw under Jose Mourinho with Chelsea. David says, Tom, what's your opinion on Smith Rowe? What's everyone's problem with Smith Rowe? Absolutely unbelievable, to be honest. He said that he wants to stay and fight for his spot. Isn't that his risk to choose? I can't believe it. I'm curious what it is you can't believe, David. I mean, my opinion on Smith Rowe is that I think for the benefit of his career, he should probably leave. It's not that I want him or want to see him leave. I think he's a great player, but he's not getting enough minutes at Arsenal. And for the benefit of his career, I think he should look to try and get a permanent move elsewhere in order to benefit himself. Because I don't think staying at Arsenal is necessarily the right pathway for him. Rob says, talking about saving penalties, what are the specific rules regarding goalkeepers coming off their line? Every pen he launched off the line before a ball was kicked, back foot behind the line, forward foot was in front. There are rules in place. I wouldn't be able to give you kind of a specific wording of that ruling, but I thought that goalkeepers could not step in front of the line until after the ball was kicked, was my interpretation of the rule. But yeah, I don't really know how that one changes. Dale says, the second time you explain the homegrown rule, I still don't get it. I assume the 17 non-homegrown players is a maximum. Doesn't 725 minus 17 equal 8? No. I know that the maths works out that way, but you don't have to register as players as homegrown. You could have 17 non-homegrown players, but you don't have to have 8 homegrown ones. It might be that you've got some under 21 players in that 25-man squad that you've not even had to register, that don't count as homegrown yet. You could have some players that don't count as homegrown because they, haven't spent 3 years at the club, but they don't yet have to count towards the non-homegrown quota. So There is not a homegrown quota of 8. There is a non-homegrown quota of 17. But some of the 8 that remain don't have to be homegrown players. They could be players that are, of course, under the age of 21. They could be players like Martinelli or Saliba that were signed at the age of 18, and they're still in the process of gaining their homegrown status, because if you spend 3 years at a club before the age of 21, you gain that homegrown status. So, Dale, I hope that makes sense. Martin says, Runs with Cows saw a parody of the Morecambe and Wise sketch with Southgate saying, I'm picking all the right players, just in the wrong positions. Yeah, absolutely. Jabu says, as long as a part of your foot is on the line, then you are good. Hopefully that was the case. Alphonse says, I believe Arsenal's midfield will upgrade a lot, and the defence a defence to midfield will allow Rice and a 6 to interchange in the upcoming games. Chris says, do you think we'll make signings this month, or do you think they will come in August, except for Raya? I think Arsenal have got a scope to do some signings this month, but we're going to have to start hearing some real weighted news on approaches and bids in the coming weeks, I think, for that to happen. If not, it could be August. But it's obviously European Championships, Copa America have slowed things down. Hopefully, though, we start to hear things. Laura says, would you let Gabriel Jesus go during the summer if we got a good offer? And what would be a good offer for him? I think a good offer would still be above £40 million, in my opinion, for Jesus, and we should try and make as much money back as possible. But I personally wouldn't let him go. I think he's a really good option for us to keep, provides plenty of depth and versatility to the forward line. If Arsenal get another forward in this summer, you've added that to Gabriel Jesus. And Nketiah seems like he's going to leave. Nelson seems like he's going to leave. Smith Rowe could yet leave. So there are a number of players that play in attacking positions that could leave this summer. I don't think it makes sense to let Gabriel Jesus go. But if we did, I'd be looking for upwards of £40 million personally. Heavyweight says, Tom, do you feel that there is an issue with our away kit as it looks similar to the Palestine flag? I know UEFA had an issue with the Ajax kit as well in the past because it was similar. I don't think that that's an issue. I mean, it's completely coincidental. The reason behind the colours of the flag, I am told and understand, is because it's to do with the roots to Ian Wright and David Rocastle's Trinidad and Tobago and Jamaican heritages, and that's the reason why. It's purely coincidental. So no, I don't think there is any issue. Martin says Lewandowski got to retake a penalty because the keeper moved off of his line. So I guess, is there consistency there? So I don't think so in any way, shape, or form. It seems to be consistency in any of the decision makers. I don't know if anyone saw the Pulisic situation for the United States, tried to shake the hand of the referee. The referee denied that. I don't really know the ins and outs of it, but it was a pretty powerful image that we saw circulating yesterday as well. So Nicholas says, Tom, why do you hate homegrown quotas? I don't. I just appreciate it when people understand that there is no such thing as a homegrown quota. There is only a non-homegrown quota, and there is no just homegrown quota. It does not exist. TJR says, would we need to sell Reece, Eddie, and others before Jesus? 50 million for me. He'll be playing a lot more on the wing next season. 50 million, that is, of course, for Jesus. I think when it comes to players like Reece, Eddie, and Reece and Eddie, we should be looking to try and make 40 million for the pair, really, or perhaps even more than that. That's what I really hope that we get. TJR, Tom, waffles, discuss. I actually had waffles today. So you can't tell me that I don't like them. They were potato waffles, granted, but you can't say I don't like them. They're very nice. In a wrap with a, you get the McDonald's breakfast wraps. I like making them at home myself because it's cheaper. You get a lot more for your money, and well, I'm an amazing cook. Baron says, hi, Tom. Is it me or is there uncertainty around City? No news on Pep staying or leaving. City players uncertain about their futures and no real transfer news with them being linked to anyone. They are being linked to a few players. Joshua Kimmich is said to be one of the players that they are keen on. It wouldn't be surprising to see him end up there. I don't think it's surprising. There's definitely uncertainty around City. That goes without saying. We just don't know what will go on, to be honest, in that regard. Laura says potato waffles in the toaster and then Marmite on top. I mean, potato waffles in the toaster is the way I do it. But Marmite, mate. What? That is ridiculous. Marmite on it. Ugh, terrible. Harsh says, hi, Tom. Do Arsenal need to sell first in order to buy players? No, they don't, but they would need to sell players to spend a considerable amount during this window. The waffles and fried chicken thing, Mark, I just don't understand that. I find that absolutely crazy. Absolutely crazy. Ricardo says, have you spoken about the Bellingham gesture? No, I haven't spoken about it. I think it's ill-advised. I understand that he's saying like it's a personal joke, but is it really smart to do that? I don't think so. It's coming as one of Jude Bellingham's biggest backers and defenders. I don't really understand why he did that. At the end of the day, you are role models, you're idols for young children. Is that really the right behavior, whether or not it's a personal joke? It has other connotations, whether what your meaning of using it was. Some people say that's being too overly sensitive, but these are role models, and he's put himself into a situation now where, should UEFA take action, I don't think people can have too many complaints about it, to be honest. So hopefully it's kind of a lesson learned type situation. Matt G says, Marmite, you need to start blocking these savages. Hey, look, the missus likes Marmite, so I can't go that far. I understand it is very much a love or hate situation with that spread. Jimmy says, would you shave your eyebrows, beard, and head if it meant signing Isak? No, I wouldn't. Absolutely not. I've got to work every day. I've got to get up on camera at 8 a.m. every single morning. There is no way on earth that would ever happen. Neither would the missus ever allow that. So no chance, Jimmy. No. There's, I know people have their passions, and Arsenal ranks very highly among mine, but no, certainly not something I would plan on doing. Idan says, Jesus still has so much to offer. We must keep him. It's a shame fans' judgment is based mainly on goal contributions. I think that obviously the numbers behind Jesus, in fact, I put a tweet out the other day of Jesus' kind of stats and where he ranks in terms of FB ref, and his stats are stunning. It's just the goal side. The goal side of his stats are the only thing really that are holding him back. And if he was to score a few more goals, and I think that would come with consistency, his stats would be ridiculous. To give you an example, for compared to forwards in the top 5 leagues in Europe, he's in the 98th percentile for assists, 97th percentile for expected assists, 86th percentile for non-penalty XG and X assisted goals, 86th percentile for shot creating actions, 87th percentile for passes attempted, 89th percentile for pass completion, 77th for progressive passes, and 79th for progressive carries, 97th for successful take-ons, 97th for attacking touches in the penalty area, 94th for progressive passes recovered, 97th for tackles, 98th for interceptions, 97th for blocks. These are unbelievable numbers. If only he could improve his goals, which he sits in the 53rd percentile for non-penalty goals. That's low. That needs to improve. But if he can improve that next season, you're looking at stats that are brilliant. But it is the goals side of him. I've asked Jesus myself about, how he's perceived, the criticism, the perception, and he's very headstrong. He's very confident in his own ability. He doesn't like when his words get taken out of context either. But he, without doubt, he's got world-class talent, but he doesn't put on world-class performance on a consistent enough basis as a centre forward because he doesn't score enough goals. And that's the biggest shame behind Jesus. If he could finish better. And when he first arrived at Arsenal, I remember him playing in that game against Nuremberg and he scored. And then pre-season, he was brilliant. And then at the start of the season, he was great as well. But then he had that run of 12 games where he didn't score. And that was obviously a problem. But to sell Jesus, I think, would be a big, big mistake this summer. I think you'd be very naive to sell him because the likelihood is that Nketiah is going to go. Nelson probably could go. Smith Rowe could go. And the reality is that we're only going to probably get in one forward during this window if we're lucky, So to then say that you'd also sell Jesus with that reality, I just think is a bit naive and a bit FIFA career mode more than anything else. Anyway, I think that's going to bring an end to today's show. Thank you so much for listening. Let us know what your thoughts are on the new look of the channel. Of course, there's more to come with more shows in the future on the horizon. We'll be bringing you tactical breakdowns and phone-in shows and Let's Talk Arsenal shows. So make sure you look out for that. They'll be coming down the pipeline, and I look forward to bringing you them. But have a fantastic rest of your Tuesday. It's a really good day of the week, as always. Enjoy our Tuesday. And there should be some interesting games on tonight. Will Romania cause something of an upset? I'm kind of hoping that they will. But thank you for listening. Drop a like on the video and help us to reach 4,000. How greedy am I? Help us to reach 1,000 likes on the video before you go. And if you're listening on a social platform, on audio platforms, thank you, of course, to you too. And thank you for catching up. Hop over to YouTube and make sure you drop a like on the video too. I will see you tomorrow morning, bright and early at 8. And of course, I'm also doing a show this evening with the boys like Johnny Cochran and LeGrove on their show tonight as well. So that could be interesting. I'm looking forward to it. Have a great day. Stay safe, stay well, stay happy and respectful. And as always, up the Arsenal. And thank you so much for the very kind messages too.